everybody, I'm Michael Monaco.
And I'm Bobby Salveson, and we are the Hazmat Guys, bringing you the knowledge and insight to make your job a little bit easier and safer. But before today's show, let's listen to our sponsors. Hey guys, when you're on a hazmat run, we want you to be safe. We want you to feel confident that you have the best equipment available and that you are ready to respond. That's where All Safe Industries comes to mind. They have technical experts on staff that offer the latest in detection and emergency response equipment from the most reputable brands in the industry. All Safe Industries takes the time to understand your needs, and they offer unique options in their in-case calibration gas detection kits. They also hold a GSA contract and offer GSA pricing to state and local agencies. All Safe Industries is veteran-owned and has been serving first responders from coast to coast since 1996. Visit allsafeindustries.com or call 888-972-3389. That spells 8889-SAFETY. Hey guys, you know we say it all the time. In emergency responses, clear and reliable radio communication is essential. And that's why Cavcom's award-winning Talk Through Your Ears technology is compatible with any two-way radio, any suit, and any respirator. Visit CavcomInc.com, that's CAVCOMINC.com, or call them at 866-547-4988.
Now let's get into the show.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Hazmat Guys. Today we've got a hot wash with a really corrosive material.
Besides me.
Besides Bob. It's not Bob. Nobody spilled Bob. Nobody cleaned Bob. But, well, somebody cleans Bob up at the end of the day, but we're not interviewing her. She's a sweetheart.
I just want to get a couple things out. When you are listening to this show, I will either be on stage or taking the stage at the New York State Hazmat Conference. We are going to be up there. Both me and Mike are going to be at New York State. And then we are, where are we going to go? I'm going to go to Midwest Conference.
Yep.
And Mike is heading to the Cold Zone.
Cold Zone. In Minnesota, Missouri.
Minneapolis.
Is it Minneapolis?
Yes. Whatever. Doesn't matter.
It always messes me up.
So I'm kind of excited for this one. A real live hot wash, a guy that is coming on to actually go through a chemical that I have no idea what it is.
I have no idea what it is either. And in the spirit of the hot wash, we are keeping him and where he is and the companies and all that stuff is anonymous. We're changing his voice so he doesn't sound like this. He actually doesn't even have the southern accent at all.
Yes.
Yeah. So, Jason.
All right.
Tell us something about yourself that you want people to know.
Okay. Well, I'm a captain with a moderate-sized fire department in the South, about the fourth largest in the state. Been involved with hazmat for approximately 20-some years. I've been with the department for 19. I got started on a federal response team before I got in the fire department, and the fire department found that out, put me on the fire department's hazmat team despite my best attempts to stay away from it. I'm kind of a weird individual. I enjoy hazmat, so I can't get enough at the fire department, and I work for private contractors on my days off. So I work for about 3 or 4 private contractors. I also teach within the state system and more or less contract out my services to whomever is willing to pay for it. If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Well, I'm the same way.
Right. Yeah.
They have a word for that in French, but I can't quite think of it off the top of my head.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that when I said that. Should have reworded that part. But
so tell us what did you have?
Well, a couple days ago, and it's still a little bit fresh in my mind. So, kind of, I guess, in the spirit of the hot wash, I'll give you what information I have. It's still somewhat evolving. It was something that I came across that kind of caught my eye, and it was not with the fire department, but a private contractor, and caused me to pause a little bit. We were called out with a private contractor that I have a contract with to do a tote transfer, 250-gallon tote, plastic IBC, and transfer it to another tote. Originally, we were told it was 35 gallons that leaked, and they just needed it transferred, clean up what mess was there, and we'd be home in a couple hours. So myself and another contractor went to actually a large shipping company that it will remain unnamed. to transfer this tote. When we arrived there, it was pretty busy. There was a lot of stuff going on, a lot of forklifts moving around. The lady asked us, "Do you want to see what's leaking first before you move your truck?" And I looked at her and said, "Well, yeah, I would rather see what's leaking first." So we came in through the loading docks, and I don't know, how, you're familiar with like trucking terminals, especially transfer facilities. It's kind of like shaped like a T. The offices, the loading docks, and then the trucks come in. And all they do is transfer one truck to another. So they took us down the loading dock. There was one door of a trailer that was closed. Well, no placards on the truck, no nothing. She opens the door. As soon as she opened the door, there was a pretty loud smell. I guess that's the best description for it. Kind of a stench that came from the trailer, which caused me to stop. And the tote was probably 7-8 feet into the trailer. And you could tell that it wasn't 35 gallons. I've messed with totes for 20 plus years. It was more like half gone, which
Ooh.
roughly 100.
And I'm guessing it wasn't a 65-gallon tote.
No, not even close. Matter of fact, when I got a closer look, I got not in the trailer, back about, I don't know, 7-8 feet. I actually got a decent phone, so I focused in to get the actual label, because the MSDS that I had, I want to make sure was matching the container. It said filled to 260 gallons. So quite a bit had leaked. Pulled up the MSDS, and the first thing that it said on there was toxic. And anything you see that has toxic causes you to pause for a moment. And
Yep.
Yeah.
it pulled up Paraquat Dichloride. And just like most of us probably now, I Googled it. And the first thing that came up was the EPA warning about Paraquat Dichloride. So I looked at the other gentleman and I said, "Do you realize what this is?" He originally told me that it was a pesticide. And I don't know how y'all are up there in the city, but down here in the South, we deal with a lot of pesticides. It's a commonplace.
Right.
And a lot of the pesticides that we have now are water-based, and they're in concentrate. And unless you mess with the actual product, they're in low quantities. EPA will not let you transport large quantities of pesticides. So when he said 260 gallons originally, I kind of thought that was a little off to me, but it was a herbicide, not a pesticide. And it was a defoliant. Yes, it was a defoliant. And also used to basically, it's in the same family as 2,4-D, some of those really nasty things out there. And of course, the first thing I went through was the NIOSH, and oddly enough, I couldn't find anything. So most of my information that I gathered was from my MSDS. And after I did that, the thing that caught my eye was the reportable quantity. Looking through some of the material, trying to find a level and how I can monitor this product. Really couldn't find a lot on it. I couldn't find a IP on it or anything like that. Was that it did have
Really, the MSDS had nothing.
nothing as far as that. No. What it did have was that the product pH at a 5. So just to
Okay.
spot check the area, I did notice the MSDS, it said that it had a low vapor pressure. So I knew that what I was smelling as I was looking through there was a stenching agent that was added to it to indicate that the product was leaking. Because come to find out, it's pretty nasty stuff. So there was a greenish blue liquid all over the trailer. So I closed the door. I went back and I breathed.
Like a tidy ball.
Yeah. And I went around to the loading dock side, or that where the trucks were working and outside, and there was a greenish blue liquid covering about 150 square feet right around the trailer, and it extended probably 200 feet out into the parking lot. The entire parking lot was blue-green. So that caused me to pause. I donned.
What was when on the MSDS sheets? What were the toxic effects?
It has a redox.
What is the harm?
Well, it's interesting because I'm still kind of learning more about the product. It has almost a delayed toxic effect. It says it has an acute toxic effect, but that's only by inhalation. And it took me a few minutes to figure this out as to why something has a low vapor pressure would have an inhalation hazard. Well, they write these MSDSs for applicators too. And they put this stuff into a pump and they spray it as a mist, right? So that's how you would inhale the product. But being that we were in an enclosed environment, I was kind of worried that there would be a respiratory hazard, not so much outside, but in the trailer, because we were moving it around.
Right.
We could possibly vaporize it. So outside, we wore CPF2, the green Beta boots. I can't think of the name of them right now, but the hazmat boots.
Tinglies.
Well, no, Tinglies are orange, aren't they? Hell, I don't know. They're
Well, they're both. I think they make green too.
Those thick, heavy boots that are like giant Crocs.
Yeah. Well, this is
Put it in
private
terms that I understand.
Right. They're wildly
Croc
expensive,
boots.
ridiculously expensive. But we donned those. I went out in the parking lot. I dropped some pH paper into the water. I have to add to this to kind of back up. Now, I am ADD, so I'm going to bounce around about 10 times. But it was one of our April storms came through about this time and dropped probably 3 to 4 inches of rain, it felt like. Of course, when you're outside, it feels like a lot more. But it just dumped. I mean, turned just completely black outside. So we had water adding to this product that was highly soluble with water. Blue-green, turned the parking lot blue-green. The parking lot was pHing at a 5. So,
that's phenomenal.
Yeah. So I looked at the gentleman. I said, "This is not good." And one of the things that it says right on the front of the MSDS is, "Do not put this into waterways. Do not let this run into runoff." So, with the limited manpower that we had, the first thing we did was we stopped up the storm drain in the parking lot. There was one storm drain that all this was feeding into. That was moderately successful. I wouldn't say that it was a success. It stopped some of it, not a lot of it, but it slowed it down. Then we repunted.
Jason,
Go ahead.
I just have a question. Do you think that based upon your dual hats, like as a cleanup and as an emergency mitigator, would you consider this scenario an emergency, or was it a cleanup?
I was under the impression, and I also spoke to one of my friends that's in the hazmat field also, and one of the first things I told him was it was Paraquat. He goes, "Paraquat?" He goes, "Oh, hell." So I was leaning towards that. Wasn't a good first comment. He said, he texted me right after that. He says, "I would run," and I said, "Well, okay." Yeah, that's not a.
Well, I don't run. I'll walk quickly.
Right. But he said, I was leaning towards this becoming an emergency. And when I tell you and I unfold this story to you, that it does pose an interesting predicament for people like myself that work in both industries, dealing with, the private industry and the shippers and the transporters and the chemical manufacturers. When you wear the private contractor's hat, you're working for them. So, but there's an ethical challenge when you're a hazmat responder, especially when you come from the public sector, and you realize that something is starting to go on beyond the cleanup stage. You know what I'm saying? And I felt like
because you're almost reverting back. You're almost reverting back to having to mitigate because you have basically like an ongoing spill with the inches of water coming down. This pool is rapidly getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
Right.
You're mitigating.
Right. And with the limited manpower, there was a moment of pause to where I felt as though somebody else should be called. But in the role that I was with a private contractor, I felt like I just wasn't in that spectrum that I could make that call. You understand what I'm saying? And I asked the questions. I gave them my honest opinion that this was beyond the scopes of a private contractor. So they made that call that they were going to mitigate it with what they had and send more contractors in. I was not totally thrilled with that, which later into the incident, after the scene was more or less stopped from getting any worse, I went ahead and relieved myself from that incident because I felt like that they were not and I don't have to tell you. I mean, when anything has a reportable quantity, and it goes above it, you're supposed to make the phone calls, right? So I wasn't totally sure those phone calls were
Right.
made. Right. So um, I stuck around on the role of slowing down what was happening. We had 125 gallons. The reportable quantity was 2.5 gallons. So we lost 130 gallons. We had 125 still slowly leaking out of this container. So me and the other gentleman, Don Suits, he was my backup, and I went in and transferred the tote. It was pulled to the back of the trailer. So we did just a gravity feed, to a ground tote. That stopped the leak of the 250 or 260 gallon tote. And that basically stopped the forward progression of the spill on the parking lot. I wasn't totally thrilled with what
Now,
was
at this
beyond that. So go ahead.
at this point, you've stopped the leak. Now, how did the holes get in the tote? Did it just
No, this
they broke?
well, this transport company, they transport things by so many cans per minute. So they're moving these, and you've been around these places. It's like a madhouse. I don't see how they don't ram into each other. But forklifts are driving in and out of these trailers all day long. I mean, I've had them knock a tractor trailer off of a loading dock and trap a guy below one before. He ran in there, pulled the tote out, and punctured the bottom of the tote. So it was at the very bottom of the tote. It was actually underneath the cage. So I couldn't even get to it. So that was the most logical choice, was just to transfer it.
And it's a cubic tote, so it's not like you just roll this thing over and get the leak to go up.
Right.
Right.
So what did they end up doing with the parking lot?
Well, and see, going into
When all was said and done.
so as I understand, the cleanup might still be going on. The bad thing about this product is the environmental fate of it is there really isn't. It sticks around for a long time. So what it actually says is that any soil and or aggregate that's used to clean the spill up should be removed and shipped accordingly. And it kind of bounced back into the emergent part of this incident. One of the things that I was thinking was getting a vac truck on the scene, because you can't suck up that much. You can't suck up a parking lot with a shop vac. You just can't do it. And
Right.
they were concerned that the pH of 5 would be detrimental to a tanker, and or what it happens is when you add a product to water, just like with foam or any kind of other incidents, you create more of a waste. And they were worried about, a 260 gallon tote turning into a 3,000 gallon toxic tanker load, which is extremely expensive.
You've heard us talk about First Line Technologies' Dahlgren Decon solution and their FiberTech wipes and mitts. They've just come out with Enhanced Decon Systems Kit, which contains everything you need to quickly decontaminate 6 to 24 operators and all their gear in one fully equipped grab-it-and-go bag. This kit has been Hazmat team tested and approved, and it's the only full-team modified decon kit with the power of Dahlgren Decon and FiberTech wipes to counter hundreds of known and emerging threats. The EDS kit is perfect for incidents where a small footprint, low logistics decontamination SOP is appropriate. Are you operating in a harsh environment? No problem. Whether it's minus 10 or 104 degrees F, Dahlgren Decon will maintain its effectiveness and can be easily applied to neutralize threats. The kit is stable in temperatures from minus 40 to 160 degrees F if you carry the RSDL with you. If you use all the consumables in the kit, unlike other rapid deployment kits, you do not need to buy a complete kit to resupply. Just purchase one of the First Line EDS replenishment packs and order just the elements you need. When ounces count and the clock is ticking, grab the EDS kit and go. Call the guys at First Line Technology for more information or a quote at 703-955-7510 or email them at sales@firstlinetech.com.
Then they shouldn't have drove a forklift into it.
Right. I would agree. And that's an interesting paradox that we live in when you jump those roles from being a public hazardous materials technician to being a private, is that cost ratio built into it. And, but the reality is that, it's already set forth. I mean, the standards that are in place, they have to mitigate it. It's just sometimes you have to educate these people that, look, the tanker load might be expensive, but flooding an entire river is a lot more expensive because this product, best I can tell, you can't clean it up. You just mitigate the damage is all you do. So,
Jace, do you have metering capability in the contracting side?
they do, but again, there's a cost ratio built into that. The one we had on the site was a 5 gas. Well, I'll say 5 gas, 4 gas with a PID. It didn't pick up anything. The IP never did hit the PID.
Interesting.
So, which was interesting because I would have thought the stenching agent would have, but it didn't. And kind of had to give the guy education because he's like, it stinks so bad, I don't know why it's not doing anything. And I said, well, because you need a lot of it and it has no vapor pressure. And, he said, well, the oxygen should go down. I said, if the oxygen goes down, then we shouldn't be in the damn trailer to begin with. So,
right. Then we got a huge problem.
Right. And I told him it had to be 50,000 parts per million to move that 1%. So I said, dude, if it's moving that meter around on there, then we got to close it up and call for some help because we got something far reaching our capabilities with 2 or 3 guys. So, really what I was leaning to on the scene with what I had was just pH paper. And beyond that, that's all we had. Now, other private contractors, they have varying levels, but most private contractors are going to have the PID, with the oxygen, hydrogen sulfide, carbon monoxide. They're gonna have that.
Right. Because you still have minimum.
Right.
You still have minimum OSHA standards that you have to address.
Exactly. Right. And that's primarily respiratory entry. So, which they actually had pretty good respirators. They had Scott with the filter cartridge. I don't know if I sent you a picture of that, but that's what I wore in the trailer was organic vapor cartridge because that's what it recommended. And again, it was more precautionary. The vapor part of it was really not my primary concern. It was my direct exposure to the product. And because from everything I've read on this product, which is kind of scary, the signs and symptoms might not show up from 5 to 15 days. So it's
what are the signs and symptoms?
Respiratory, gastric.
Like, what are you looking at?
It actually, from what I've looked at on the EPA's website, it causes fibrous material to form in your lungs and or your gastrointestinal tract. It's some sort of salt. It's got a redox reaction that obviously doesn't do well inside your body. And it being highly soluble with water, it crosses over the barrier, your skin barrier pretty easily. So in other countries, this stuff has caused a lot of problems from what I understand. I was reading in some countries that people use this to commit suicide with, which sounds like a horrible way to kill yourself. But
yeah, no joke. There's a lot easier ways.
Oh, yeah. Come on. I mean, but they'll drink a cup of this stuff and it kills them pretty quickly. So it basically just shuts you down, your lungs, your kidneys, your liver, your heart. And sounds like a pretty awful way to go. But I guess if you got a lot of Paraquat laying around and it's cheap, apparently in other countries you can buy this stuff. This stuff's restricted use. You can't even buy it. A homeowner can't buy this stuff. It's strictly for licensed applicators. So it's pretty restricted.
Yeah, I've never heard of this stuff. I'm actually just looking it up right now, and it looks like it's a yellow crystalline solid. So you must have had the aqueous version of it, where they diluted it into that.
Yeah,
that's interesting. It is pretty badass, man. It's pretty toxic.
So, Bob, based upon what you're seeing with the information in front of you, let's say Jason had called us. He had turned around and he had gone, crap, this is getting beyond the scope of a cleanup. This is a true emergency. We need to get somebody in here to stabilize, and for whatever reason, we don't have the equipment. We pull up on scene, and we've got a whole parking lot filled with this stuff. What do you, based upon what you're looking at, what do you think our level of PPE is going to be just kind of right off the bat? I'm
gonna concur with what Jason's saying. I mean, the vapor pressure in PubChem, my favorite, is 0.000001. It's 6 zeros then 1 millimeters of mercury.
Right.
So it is a smidge over a rock.
Right.
So, like there's zero chance I'm getting into a level A. And I would even be comfortable getting into, let's say, a level B with it tied around my waist. Because it's just basically keep yourself clean. But it does have some problems when it gets hot. It is corrosive to metals. So my overpacking is going to be a little difficult. But it doesn't. I'm looking for flammability, and I don't see any flammability.
Yeah, it's
for this
listed
at
as
all.
non-flammable.
Yeah, so I'm thinking that we would probably get on scene, see a parking lot of this stuff, get dressed, do what we could to keep the spill from getting larger, and probably as emergency responders, we would call in tanker trucks and start Wilden pumping this stuff in, right?
Yeah, I'd probably start pumping it by some manner. You're gonna have to. I wonder what the geography of the. Can you use the topography? That's a better word of the parking lot to your advantage and kind of pool it on its own.
Right, like
It's gonna be difficult to gather.
Right,
that.
and I don't know if I added that picture to it. No. Looking at it, just eyeballing it, just from the cleanup side when I've worked in these environments. Again, I told the gentleman that was working with me, we could hold back probably 20,000 gallons because it was pitched down to a point, and then there was a storm drain. The problem was it was one of those corner drains. It wasn't a street drain. You know what I'm familiar with, like the square drains.
Okay.
So, we put plastic over it. I tried to stake it down. It filled it up, and then of course it went bye-bye right down the storm drain. Which, hey, I mean,
That's got to be an awful feeling.
yeah, it was really disappointing to watch that happen after all the work I'd done. But looking in hindsight, I don't know if you're familiar, we use a flow stop. It's just, basically it's like a vetter bag that you put down in a drain. If I had that, I would have went to its point of discharge and stopped the drain. We can stop up to, I believe it's a 36-inch line. So we could stick this line in there and just stop it. Between the pipe and the parking lot, we could have held back a hell of a lot of liquid. So, but unfortunately, we didn't have that resource with us at the time. We have one here with the municipality that I work for. It's a low-pressure system, works great, has an offloading valve. So once you do decide to start offloading it, it's got a quick connect to it, and you can pump it right out of the pipe. So you can hold back thousands of gallons between the pipe and the parking lot. So,
Right.
unfortunately, we didn't have that accessible to us at the time. So,
Okay, so Jason, based upon this run, and when you look back on it, what are some of the things that you feel like you learned, the takeaways that you got from this run, that you want other people to kind of be able, the lessons that they're going to pull from this?
well, and I may go with a couple directions with this, but from this incident and other incidents that I've been involved with, you need to know your limitations. You need to understand whether it's a private contractor or a local hazmat team. We all, just like on a fire truck, we want to take care of it on our own. Now, I think we can all attest to that, especially in emergency services. And even in a private contractor world, you'll find the same thing, that you want to be the one to fix the problem. Realize when it's above your scope that your pride is keeping this incident from stabilizing, that it's going to stair step into something that you can't handle, and quite frankly into a large scale incident. Get the help there, get the help on the road. Also, just take a moment. I mean, you've attested to this in your podcast. Take a moment and see what's going on. What's the product? Get the proper PPE. Don't put yourself in a situation that you're having to repunt afterwards. This stuff here, from what I understand, once it got on you, you can get the soap and the water, but if it gets inside your body, I mean, you're pretty well done. It just says in here, if the victim survives. Well, that's a pretty ominous statement right there. If the victim survives, they have a good chance of contracting these other things. Well, that causes me to stop for a moment and say, look, all right, let's hold it where it's at. And I tell my techs this all the time. Until you can get downfield and deal with a problem, hold it where it's at. Stop it where it is, repunt, and let's see how we can stop this incident from getting worse. So I guess that the biggest point of it, I would say, is just know your limitations and know where you cross over into something where you need other people's help, and don't be afraid to ask for it. We're lucky enough where we are that we have a very large team. So
from a public responder point of view, we're pretty good with calling in for help, but there are occasions that we don't.
Right.
And I know that for a normal battalion chief or a company, if they're gonna probably get their pee slapped, for lack of better words, if they don't call for help and they needed it.
Right.
From a private contractor point of view, when you're now you're dealing with money and time, where is that balance between, okay, listen, I work for this guy, but he's saying they don't want extra help. I know that we need the extra help. Do you if you told them that we need help and they didn't get the help, or they refused to let you call for help, and that incident spilt over into the waterways, is there responsibility on you from a legality point of view, or are your hands washed once the person who hired you told you not to do something?
That's honestly a question that I still ponder with myself. I mean, I've done some fact checking after this incident and spoken to different agencies, and I voiced my opinion on what should have been done. I wasn't in the role of making that call. So myself, I felt like I was kind of washing my hands of it. But on the same note, I'm still trying to, and this might be something for further research, because quite frankly, I know with our local emergency management, we have reportable quantities for like diesel spills and oil and stuff like that. But I think all too often, hazmat techs, they see that RQ and they pass right over top of it. If it goes above that, you're supposed to call the National Response Center. You're supposed to call emergency management. You're supposed to call, DENR or whatever agency that you have that's your state emergency management. So I got to be honest with you, that's a good question. I mean, me ethically, I felt that I voiced my opinion and did what I did as a good hazmat technician to mitigate the incident, to keep it from leaving the site any further than it already had. But on a private contractor side, it is a very fine line, between continuing to work when you know that it's a possibly risky situation. And I honestly, as I've gotten older, and probably can attest to this too, my filter gets worse and worse. I don't know what's going on. I'll just say whatever the hell I want, and which has gotten me trouble here in the fire department.
Yeah, I kind of got that going on too.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. I thought it would get better, but it's gotten worse. So in the private contractor world, it's the same. It's the same thing. I mean, if something's not right, I'm going to say that this is not right. I'm pretty brave around chemicals, and I've worked around them. I've drove tankers. I've drove, dump trucks, roll-off trucks. I've worked around shipping. I've worked around rail. But when I see the toxic on that, that's something you're going to take home to you. You know what I mean? And that's something that's going to kiss you later and remind you that you probably should have done a little better. So I think from a contractor side, you need to ask yourself the tough question: is that one paycheck worth your health? You know what I'm saying? And voice it.
Absolutely.
Tell your boss.
I think from a.
Right. So.
Yeah, I think from a first responder point of view, that's always a good thing. If you're ever questioning the PPE you're being put in or asked to put in, it's your health, it's your life. You should be comfortable with what you're putting on.
Yeah, totally.
All right, Jason. Well, thank you so much for coming on and talking about this, the run that you have. We're not giving out his email address or his phone number. He doesn't want to be contacted by any of you idiots out there. So I'll say thank you for coming on. If you do have any questions, feel free to email either Bob or myself, and we'll reach out to Jason and ask him for you.
Jason, thanks so much, man. If you have a moment, please head over to iTunes and leave us a positive review. And don't forget to check out the book, National Emergency Response Hazmat Drills, or NERD, on Amazon.
Well, that wraps up another episode of the Hazmat Guys.
You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and our YouTube channel at the Hazmat Guys. And take a moment to call our comment hotline at 843-628-1484 and go to www.thehazmatguys.com and sign up for the newsletter.
We seriously look forward to your feedback about any of the information provided, and we also want to hear about interesting incidents that you were a part of. So you can send us a note at feedback@thehazmatguys.com. And remember, any of the information that you share with us, if we put it on air, can always remain anonymous.
Remember, guys, don't just get on the job. Get into the job.